What up, ladies? Welcome into the dungeon of the Doctors of Doom Fantasy Football Podcast, where I'm your host, Al, and I'm joined today by me and Vin. Say hello, fellas.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Mitch, your name isn't great to abbreviate. I mean, I guess technically Mitch is already short for Mitchell, and Alex is already short for Alexander, and Vinny's already short for Vincent, but, I wanted to go even shorter today, because the episode might not be that short. But yeah, welcome in. Hope everyone has been enjoying football. It's been crazy out there. A lot of news to go over this week. A lot more injuries, at least for people like me who had Amari in Hampton, who is now on IR. So that was a not so fun one. But in more interesting news, we've had a interdivision quarterback trade in the NFL. That's pretty rare. Joe Flacco being dealt from the Browns to the Bengals, and it's already going to be starting. So the Jake Browning era is over as soon as it began. He has thrown so many picks, and they've decided to move on. What do you guys think it will do fantasy-wise for Higgins and Chase now that they have Flacco throwing to them as opposed to Browning? Or do you think it won't have any effect because that offensive line is so bad that I saw one post say that it is elder abuse putting Flacco out there behind that line, and that after practice today, Flacco may just come out and retire?
That's pretty funny. The other one I saw like that was Amari Cooper was like, I saw the offensive line for the Raiders and Geno Smith had decided to retire and not play out this year. Flacco's going to follow suit with Amari Cooper and be like, no, I'm good. Thanks for a trade.
Yeah, I think it was Amari Cooper saw throw a slant route and set him out.
I'm out. I saw that meme. But that's pretty funny, the elder abuse thing. The other thing that's funny to me is I
Just
was
be clear,
trying to figure
our
it out.
podcast does not think elder abuse is funny. That was Mitchell Black saying that and not the rest of us.
Well, it's funny to me because Aaron Rodgers, if he was getting elder abuse, you guys would laugh and call him old. But Flacco is terrible for the Browns, sucks it up, gets traded mid-season, and everyone's like, yay for Flacco. The other funny part for me is I was trying to figure this out, but I couldn't really, I didn't know how to Google. I just Googled it and see what AI said. And AI said no. But I don't think there's ever, like, imagine being the Packers defense, right? You're trying to compete for an NFC championship this year and go to a Super Bowl. You lost to the Browns week 2. You've crushed almost every other team, the contending teams. And then 3 weeks later, you're like, wait, who's playing quarterback over there? The defense has to play Flacco again inside of a month on a different team. That's kind of a wild concept.
It is. I mean, I will say that, like, obviously, like, I do kind of wish that, I have the Packers D, so obviously I wish they got to play Browning before they made the swap because Browning's had so many turnovers. That being said, the Browns won because their defense was amazing. Flacco did not look. On the last drive of the game, he did drive the field and score to win, so, like, I'll give him props there. But he only had 170 yards passing that game. It wasn't like he was shredding them offensively. But, yeah, it's
this
definitely
is
weird.
going into real analysis now. Is from what I've gathered from all my podcasts and reading and research, whatever I do, is it seems like that because I was convinced last week from a source that I trusted that they were talking to Russ. I think I said that on the podcast, but what was holding it up was Russ was concerned that if he did well and led the Bengals far into the playoffs, that they would bench him for Burrow and let Burrow play in the playoffs. And Russ didn't want that, blah, blah. I don't know how much that's true or not. And then you find out a week later, they go for Flacco. So for now with the sources and what I'm reading is like, the Bengals don't want to win too many games this year. So if you would have taken in Russ or Cousins, you could have probably won some extra games and brought you out of the top 5 picks or the top 6 picks in the NFL draft. The Bengals might be secretly wanting to do Browning the whole year so they could be in the top 6, go out, get a Joe Alt, Christian Slater, or any of these linemen that are being drafted top 5 or whatever, and you can help Burrow for the long run, whereas in the future you might not get a bottom 5 pick again with a healthy Burrow. So it's not that Browning or Flacco is much better. It's just the Bengals are like, wow, we're really bad with Browning. We just need to be bad. Does that make sense? Like, we need to be competitive in these games, but we don't really want to win them. Flacco's perfect for that. That's what it seems like is going on, to whereas like if you actually traded for Russ or Cousins, now you're winning some games and you still might not make the playoffs, and that pulls you out of the top 6 or 7 draft picks in an NFL draft coming up, which, by the way, if you do pick 4, 5, or 6, you can put a left tackle in with Burrow for the rest of his career. I mean, everyone's looking at what the offensive line done in San Diego for the Rams. Sorry, oh my gosh, I messed up again. For the Chargers in Los Angeles, not San Diego. Look what it's done. They've solidified outside tackle spots, and that's going to be with Herbert for the next 5 to 7 years. if you can grab a left tackle coming up in this draft, I don't know, I don't study college drafts this early, but if there's a good one, now you've solidified the next 5, 6 years the blind side of Joe Burrow where you might not have had that opportunity. So now I'm reading the same source that was telling me about the Russ stuff, and I'm like, well, that makes sense too. So I don't know what to believe. It's
Well,
kind of like they just
I'll
want
go
to
ahead and tell
compete
you,
for
I don't think
everything.
any of that makes any sense at all. Kirk Cousins, there's
Really?
no way he was ever in the running. There's just too much money in that contract. The Bengals couldn't afford to pay Cousins. As far as not wanting, Russ not wanting to go play somewhere and play well and then get benched for the playoffs, so he would rather just ride the bench in New York and not play all season. I don't believe that for a second either. I think the reason they make the move to Flacco is a quarterback who has in the he's got the Ryan Fitzpatrick vibe. He can catch lightning in the bottle. He can also just be terrible, which he was for a lot of his career, which Fitzpatrick was for a lot of his career. But he has the ability, we've seen it, to catch lightning in a bottle and lead a team on a run. So by bringing him in, you're going to get one of two outcomes. One, you get that lightning in a bottle, you make a run, then Burrow comes back and you actually have a chance in the playoffs. Or he's just going to suck, just like Browning was. You get to show your fan base that at least you tried. Maybe you're a little more entertaining than you are with Browning, and you still get that good draft pick because you did poorly. Whereas if you bring in someone like Russ, I don't think Russ has the lightning in the bottle factor, but I also don't think he sucks. So I think you're going to get like a more average season and just a worse draft pick and still not make the playoffs. So that's why I think that Flacco makes the
Right.
most sense. He also knows the division, right? Like he played in this division 2 years ago and went to the playoffs with the Browns. He's been playing in the division this year. He knows the Browns defense, obviously, because he plays against them in practice. So I just think it made sense. But the question I asked that has not been answered yet was, what do you think it does for the fantasy value of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins?
Okay, so I will answer both. First of all, it makes them actually relevant. Thank goodness for the T. Higgins owners who are looking at that 98%, 99% rostered thing and thinking for the last 2 or 3 weeks, can I really drop a 99% rostered player? Because I really want to. I wanted to 2 or 3 weeks ago. So what it did was it at least held on for the Chase Brown and the T. Higgins owners that maybe your second or third round pick is actually going to have some value for the rest of the year. So for sure it changes value because I said last week in the podcast that the Bengals had 3 games under 200 yards of offense in the last 15 years or whatever, and they had 3 out of the first 4 weeks under 200 yards. So anything is going to be better. But back to your original thing, and then I'll let Vinny answer. Alex, is my only counter to any of that is why Flacco? Is it just because he's available? You've literally got backups like Mac Jones. I know you can't get him right now because he's starting, and you know you can't get backups like Carson Wentz and stuff. But there are backups if you're really trying to win and go to the playoffs now. There's Malik Willis, there's Sam Howell, there's Davis Mills, there's Jameis Winston, there's Gardner Minshew, there's Drew Lock, Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph might be the lower end of it, but even Jimmy G and Mitch Trubisky are available backups in the league. You don't go for any of those 10 guys that I named that would be instantly better than Flacco. Now you can argue, are they available or not? I don't know. Sure. But I mean, even Marcus Mariota on the Commanders is a better available backup than grabbing Flacco from the Browns. So if you are truly trying to win, even Andy Dalton is a better choice than Flacco. You have 14 guys that you can potentially choose from that are sitting backups in the NFL right now that would love to start, and they didn't get any of those guys. That's my concern. But yeah, I'll let Vinny go.
Yeah, I don't really get it. Like I can't paint a single story that makes it make sense. Um, aside from, I mean, let's just put it out there. Did anybody really think that the move they were gonna make was for Flacco after he got benched? Like I know for sure, like I didn't. Um, Cousins was never on the table. I agree with Alex. Like you just can't spend that. Like the Bengals obviously didn't even want to pay Trey Hendrickson, right? They're strapped for offensive cash. You're not going to pay a large sum of money from a salary cap perspective for someone who's supposed to try to hold you over for 2 more months. Um, but Flacco just doesn't make. I don't know what they're. I cannot say that I think Flacco is better than Jake Browning. Like Jake Browning has been atrocious because he throws a ton of interceptions, and he hasn't been very good. But Flacco also has not been good this year, and
Agreed.
is like 50 years old. So yeah, I don't really get it. I
The
don't know
last
if it
thing,
boosts their fantasy value because I just don't think Flacco has boosted any fantasy value this year. Last year, last couple of years, maybe, But even then, he would go on these hot streaks. I don't think this helps at all. I don't understand it, and maybe time will tell. Maybe they thought this was what they needed to make a run because the AFC North is kind of in shambles with the Ravens being 1-4 and for whatever reason the Steelers being 3-1. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that's no help, but I just don't think anything is an upgrade.
What does it say to you guys if I am in the same division as you and I trade a player to someone? Like, what do the Bengals truly feel about Flacco? Is this literally like, oh, we actually are helping the Bengals? I mean, sorry, the Browns. We are actually helping the Bengals because we're not going to get anything Flacco, and at least we get a draft pick out of this? Or it's like, wow, we're just happy someone's willing to trade for us Flacco because he's so bad. Like, what does that say how the Browns feel about Flacco giving him to an interdivision rival? And then, yeah, and the only other thing I would say is like with Flacco last year, he looked like really good, but it turns out maybe that Colts offensive line was really good because like I know this isn't comparable, and we did this with Fields and Russ stuff with the Steelers and Jets, but like, what do you think Anthony Richardson is in comparison to Browning? Because then Flacco came in and took over for Richardson, and all of a sudden, fantasy relevant players across the Colts, right? Even Jonathan Taylor was a world beater. So that gave me a little clue that next year, hey, with Danny Dimes, I'm all in on Jonathan Taylor. Flacco coming into this Bengals might not have that offensive line like he had in the Browns because the Browns have had an atrocious offensive line for a couple of years now due to injuries as well. So maybe it's not Flacco that was good, and it was the offensive line in Indianapolis that was really good. And Flacco makes no difference for the Bengals because he has no more than 3 seconds to throw the ball. So that's what we're going to find out is I think Flacco will make fantasy relevant players, but not a huge jump from Browning. I think it's going to be roughly the same as Vinny said. If he had an offensive line like the Colts and Richardson was just struggling because Richardson sucks, and then you bring in Flacco to that situation, then all of a sudden, boom, everyone jumps. But I don't think there's going to be that jump. I don't know if I said that confusing. I'm sorry.
You did. I mean, you do this often. Like, I asked both you guys one question, should have taken about a minute each, and we took 22 minutes, and we just now barely covered the fact that you guys both don't think it's going to help the fantasy players. I will give one more stat that it can only go up. Do you guys know who the best two-way player in football is? It's not Travis Henry. It's not Travis Hunter. You know who it is? It's Jamar Chase.
Victor Wembanyama.
Jamar Chase last week had 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 tackles. That's right. He was the second leading tackler on the Bengals last week. That's not made up. That is a legitimate stat. He had the second most tackles of any Bengal last week. He played 0 defensive snaps, guys. He only played on offense, but Browning had so many picks and he made every tackle. Flacco now being in Cincy cannot be worse because they're so bad. It can't be worse. And if you're wondering why the Bengals might make this, you're getting information because now you have access to information about the Browns on offense and defense because Flacco played for the Browns.
Oh no!
And like I said, he has a chance to make the offense better. Are they going to win games? No, they're still going to suck. They're not going to win games, so they'll still get good draft picks. But people will come and watch you play and not be as miserable about it. If you have a team that loses all the time, but at least is in shootouts, like the Cowboys, right? Like the Cowboys' record's not good, but if you're a Cowboy fan, you have to say you've enjoyed watching the games because they've been super entertaining, right? Whereas if you're a team that goes out and scores no points and does nothing on offense and just looks abysmal while getting beat like a Cherokee drum, that's no fun as a fan. So like I think Flacco was a fun move that gives them the team information without hurting their bottom line. I think that's why they did it. As far as why the Browns did it, I have no idea. The Browns even had someone come out today and say they are not sure yet whether Sanders is going to be their number 2 quarterback. He's the only other quarterback on the roster, guys, so if he's not number 2, who is?
Alex, I mean this jokingly, but I can tell you you don't need Flacco for the offense of the Browns. It's just 13 personnel zone schemes. B gap run, A gap run, or C gap run. Whichever side you think it's going to, load it, and it's a 13 personnel. I promise you. It's literally Stefanski's been top 5 in rushing attempts for 4 of the last 5 years. So I don't think they need much information on the Browns offense. But that's just kind of a joke. And to answer your question, Alex, if Browning wasn't so bad, I don't know, and you criticized my long-winded answer, and I apologize, but the whole point of the long-winded answer was that with that line, I truly don't know if Flacco is going to be much better than Browning. I know it can only go up, but it could still be really, really, really bad with a step up. Does that make sense? Like
No, I
it could still
I
be
agree. I think it's
atrocious.
still going to be really bad. I think it's just a perception move, right? Like you can't
Yeah,
if you're the Bengals organization, you lose not just your fan base but your locker room. You lose so much like credibility with your locker room if you run Jake Browning out there one more time after what he's done
true.
the first 3 weeks. You can't do that. You cannot tell your team like, "Hey guys, we care about this team and this city and this organization. We want to do well for you." When you're running him out there, you can't. So at least it's like, "Hey, we tried something, guys. We tried to make it happen for you." You know what I mean?
But
What
is that trying?
I mean, it's better
True.
than
That's what I
nothing.
was. That's what that was my original point. Is I named like 15 backup QBs that might be. I don't know if they're available,
Well,
obviously,
so
because I'm
I
not
my,
doing.
my counterpoint, and the conversation kept going, so I didn't make this counterpoint at the time. But my counterpoint to that, you did name 15 backup QBs. How many of those backup QBs have gone to the playoffs and played in playoff games in the last 2 years? Because Flacco
Yeah, probably
has.
a couple. Hasn't Malik Willis done one and Sam Howell? But yeah, you're right. I get what you're saying. He's got the most experience and he could come in ready right now. You're right.
He's a guy who recently in this division, which I think is relevant, recently in this division took a team to the playoffs and played well.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's where I think it comes down to, and the cost was non-existent. Like you said, the Browns, now that the Browns moved on from him, you can't go back, right? The
Right.
Browns drafted 2 quarterbacks in the draft. As soon as you bench Flacco and move to Gabriel, which they did, you can't go. You
Yep.
can never go backwards. If Gabriel sucks, you're going to Sanders. You're not going back to Flacco. So there's zero value in Flacco other than being a mentor to those guys. And if you have a quarterback
What if he doesn't
brilliant
want to be?
coach, which presumably you would if you drafted 2 quarterbacks, surely you have somebody there that you think is going to be a good quarterbacks coach. You don't need Flacco around. So there's no value to you in keeping him on the roster at this point. You may as well get something for him.
Yeah, for sure. The
Anyway,
the
let's
last thing I'll
okay,
say
go ahead.
is
Yeah, we need to
last thing
move
I'll
on.
say,
But go
no,
ahead.
no,
Say your last point, but then we got to
no.
move on because
The last point is like one could dream as a T. Higgins owner, and Matt can dream as a Jamar Chase owner. We were both going, please give the Bengals Jameis Winston. Please. Could you imagine
well, I
Jameis
mean,
Winston in
everybody
that
wants that,
Bengals
right? Because
offense?
that's just gonna be entertaining.
Dude,
So
everyone would become a Bengals fan instantly.
yeah. All right. So yeah, let's cover some other news that has been happening. I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you guys see what happened in the Vikings game? That should have been a scandal and just kind of wasn't, which is wild. So the Vikings won by 1 score. It was a close game. They went down and threw that touchdown to Addison at the very end. Did you guys see their missed field goal?
I don't think I
Oh,
did.
The
like
Vikings
the
missed
rumors
a
of it
field
hitting
goal
the.
because it hit a camera wire. They kicked a field goal. It hit the camera wire and shanked off it, and they missed. They didn't replay the play. They called it miss on the field, and they kept going. Like how that happens without them redoing the down is just wild to me. Like, are we now saying that like man-made obstacles are part of the game now? Because I'm in Dallas. If a punt hits the Titantron, because they have that giant Titantron in the Jerry Dome, they have to replay the punt. So are you telling me that if a field goal hits a camera wire that like, oh, sorry, you got blocked by the equipment, ESPN or CBS or whatever network was carrying it, we played good D, boys. Like that's wild to me that happened. Like, and I'm wondering if maybe it wasn't a huge deal because the Vikings did manage to win that game on a last second touchdown to Addison. But it's like, if the Vikings lose that game, I feel like that is a massive story because they won by 4, right? So like, the field goal would have been that would have been a tying, like at the end of the game it would have been 17-17 going to overtime with that field goal, right? If they don't get the last second touchdown, so like that could have been the difference between losing and going to overtime.
Yeah, that's.
And like,
Yeah, I
there's
don't
just
know if
like no
anybody
one talking
saw
about
it
it.
in real time.
I feel like the NFL buried that story.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I get that in real time. Maybe no one realized it, and I will say, to be fair, I don't know that kick was going in anyway. It was going to be close, so like it may have missed anyway. But like the fact that even after the fact it hasn't been a story is wild to me. Like I've seen the video. It clearly hits the camera wire and shanks and goes off. So yeah, that's just interesting to me that happened. Other news is around the league is basically just about how people are playing. The Chiefs have 3 losses this season after losing to the Jaguars, which just the Jaguars. I think I said after week 1 or 2 when they blew that game against the Panthers that they were done, and somehow they're now 4-1. I don't understand it. Do you guys? So Chiefs have 3 losses. Do you guys know how long it took before they got their 3rd loss last year?
They didn't. It was the
Did they
Super Bowl.
It
lose
was the
three
Super
games? I
Bowl.
thought they went.
It was the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Their
Yeah.
3rd loss was the Super Bowl last year. We're in week 5. They already have 3. So Chiefs 3
Also,
losses. The Ravens are 1-4, and they're probably going to be 1-5 after this week.
don't Alex, don't forget the last game of the season, the Chiefs benched all their starters against the Broncos, which effectively eliminated the Bengals out of the playoffs and
That's true.
allowed
And
the
that was one of
Broncos
their 2
in.
losses. Yeah, during the regular
That
season.
was
So
one
yeah,
of their two.
um,
That's rough.
yeah, just a lot of bad play.
The
Speaking of bad
Raiders are
play,
1-4. I mean, God, who saw that coming?
who
They
Team
looked so
Phoenix?
good week one.
Yeah, Team Phoenix having a rough go. Also, another quarterback struggling. Justin Herbert. You talked about offensive line. The Chargers now have 3 injured offensive linemen. They came out looking like world beaters the first 2 weeks of the season. Since then, they've been awful. In his last 3 games, Justin Herbert has thrown 4 interceptions. Do you guys know how many interceptions he threw all of last year combined?
I think he threw 3.
3. He's thrown more picks in the
Yeah.
last 3 games than he did all of last season. We were talking about how good those receivers were. Well, not McConkey, F that guy. But, Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, they've been ballers. Amarian Hampton, and now, they've now lost 3 offensive linemen and their running backs on IR. And both the running backs, I guess, and Najee Harris is out too. So, this Charger team, I think, starting the year 3-0, we're like, hey, this team has juice. I don't know that they're making the playoffs now. I think they've fallen from from a legit contender that could win it all to I don't know if they're making the playoffs.
Alex, you just gave me goosebumps because this was going to be one of my biggest talking points for this podcast this week that I wanted to bring up is I told Miles, I told a couple other people this, I told even Samantha, do you ever wonder why I study so much offensive lines in the offseason and pay that stupid amount of money for PFF's grades and all that kind of stuff? Is I think it's like $70 a year for that BS just for the grade and the overall look at is because this is the epitome of what a team could be with a good offensive line and what a team could be with a bad offensive line. So it's always like we in the podcast, you're like, oh, what team are you interested in? I'm like, oh, I'm interested in the Colts or whatever because of that offensive line. And the Vikings, I don't really care who's giving that offensive line. And obviously coordinators playing, but this is why offensive without Becton, Slater, and Alt, that line looks average as AF. And they looked like the number one fantasy offense that you wanted a piece of for this year before that. So if anyone ever asks why, I know all of the offensive line players and really actually put weight into that, look at the Chargers this year. Like cannot prove my point any worse or more than what's going on with the Chargers.
Yeah. No, I agree. Not to get too deep into it, but that was one of the reasons why I didn't really take a flyer on Hampton in any league once Slater went down. Because I was like, you can't lose arguably the best tackle in football, if not top 2 or 3, and think that the continuity of that line sustains. So, the Chargers, yeah, Alex, you might be very right. I think that they're the Niners of last year, like a really good team, but then you just start getting all these offensive line injuries and skill player injuries, and you're like, dang, that sucks. Like they've lost their top 2 running backs even on top of the offensive line, and now your pass pro from a running back is super important, and Najee might be garbage, but that's a guy I want back there blocking for me, that's for sure. So,
One eye.
yeah, yeah, but
He's gonna miss the whole
240
blind
pounds or
side.
whatever.
That's why you put him on the side with the good eye, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he keeps autoing him to the right
I mean,
side.
obviously, there've been a ton of injuries that have affected things this year, but one thing that I don't think is necessarily is injury related, but is King Henry now Citizen Henry? I hate to say it, but Derrick Henry has not been good this season. He had 15 carries this past week. How many yards do you guys think he got?
It was somewhere around 29, 28, 30.
Yeah, 33. He averaged just barely over 2 yards a carry. And this is the second game this season, by the way, that he has had 10 plus touches and averaged 2 or less yards per carry. So it's not like this is just a one-off. This was the game that I think everyone thought okay, Houston hasn't been very good, and with Lamar out, we're gonna pound the rock. We're gonna ride Derrick Henry, and we're gonna let him get the wheels going again. And that just didn't happen. He was shut down. I get that they were playing to stop him, but he's played against stacked boxes before. He played against a stacked box in every single game he ever played in Tennessee as a Titan, and that didn't stop him. But man,
he was
he's lost
7 years. Yeah, he was 7 years younger at that time. But
I know, but I'm saying last year he ran for almost 2,000 yards. Week 1 of this year he ran for 170 yards. It seemed like he was still rolling, but since week 1, now granted, I will in his defense, he has played some good defenses, but like since week 1, he hasn't cracked double-digit fantasy points. And that includes 2 games where he scored a touchdown, by the way. So it's like, oh, well, he just didn't score a touchdown. No, he did. He has 4 straight games of less than double-digit points, and in 2 of them he scored a touchdown, which for those who don't know is worth 6. Does he bounce back? Like, is this just a bad sample size? And after, maybe not this week, but then, this week, then there's the bye. He gets to rest. He gets Lamar back. Do we think in week 8, Derrick Henry's back being Derrick Henry? Because this week he plays the Rams, who are the second best defense against the run. So, like, I don't have high hopes for this week. And then there's a bye week. But then he comes out of it and he gets to play the Bears, who are kind of crappy. So do we think in week 8 against the Bears, King Henry's back? Or do we have to demote him, at least to Prince? Maybe not all the way to Citizen, but at least to Prince Henry.
If anyone thinks he's Citizen or Prince Henry, offer me a trade for Henry right now, please. The NFL's changed massively to a 2, they call it like a 2 high safety, but it's basically a cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, right? Blah, blah, blah. Basically what that does is, if I had to ask you which 5 offenses get those coverages the most, I'll just tell you to make it go faster. Lions, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs. So like, and Bengals last year. So those 5, if that's why Chase Brown, and then if you're not running the 2 high safety, Chase Brown doesn't look as good. He has 18 carries for 30 yards. Ravens, once Lamar's had the injury, you're not going to get those type of looks anymore. The Texans apparently are still getting that, and that's why they have Woody Marks and Chubb looking like really good running backs. It's because there's no one in the box. So literally this just comes down to whether or not the defenses coming in this week are going to scheme against you. Guess what team was in the top 6 or 7 last year for those 2 coverages and is not now and are in the bottom? The Ravens and the Eagles. Last year they were getting all those defenses, and that's why their running game was so open. This year, defense are coming in to the Ravens and to the Eagles and are saying, no, we're not going to let them run all over us, and we're going to make them pass all over us. This is why Lamar looked so good the first couple weeks, because he's like, wait a second, you guys aren't playing those coverages against me. It's just all open and deep. So it looks like this year teams' defenses have schemed over the offseason. We're not allowing these cover 2, cover 4, cover 6 offenses and letting the Ravens and the Chiefs and and the Eagles come in and run all over us. We're going to make these teams pass to beat us. And that's why the Eagles offense has looked so bad some of these weeks, is because they're trying to pass the ball and they just literally can't. So anyone who thinks King Henry is no longer King Henry, trade him to me. And when Lamar comes back, King Henry will be, what he was before. I think this is just an aged running back on a team that is no longer seeing those coverages. So he's going to suffer. I think we can revisit this and tab it and come back to it. But mark my words. I think it'd be interesting to see one day how the Lions off 2 running backs would do if the defenses didn't run those defenses against them. If they started running, more of like a box 8 or whatever these defenses are that they're running against the running teams. I would be interested to see how Gibbs and Montgomery do that fantasy season. But until then, obviously you can't. Well, those 2 teams were top 5. And they're not. They're in the bottom 5 now. That's a huge difference.
Okay, we got it. You think King Henry is still King Henry? What about you, Vin? Do you think he recovers from this?
Yeah, I think he recovers. I think you're not going to do much with Cooper Rush. And then the games, Cleveland's defense we know is easily one of the best. If Cleveland's defense wasn't on the field all the time, they might be one of the best defenses we've seen in this century. So I don't judge that game. And then just game scripts between Detroit and Kansas City just didn't get the ball very much. I think he's fine. I wouldn't worry too much about it once Lamar comes back and the schedule lightens up a little bit.
All right, fair enough. Let's see. I guess let's unless you guys have any more NFL specific news or other sports related news you want to cover, I'm going to go around the league and we'll look at how things went in DoD this week.
Around the league.
Oh, actually, hold on. I do have one more thing. For those who didn't see it, the Cardinals had one of the most epic losses you'll ever see. And for those who didn't get to see it, I found a college game that is very similar. This is the level of ineptitude that we saw in the Cardinals game. The blue team goes for the kick to win the game, gets blocked, picked up by Texas Tech. And so, the game's over, right? Nope. He's going to just toss it right back to Kansas and let them kick another field goal. That's basically what happened. Cardinals intercepted a pass by the Titans, then dropped it, knocked it into the end zone, let the Titans recover for a touchdown. They also had DeMarcado run 76 yards and then fumble it out the back of the end zone, untouched. There were 3 unforced fumbles in the NFL this past week. DeMarcado being the worst of the bunch. The coach actually punched him in the chest for it. And Cardinals super inept. Did you guys have the pleasure of watching that hilarious game?
For sure.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was watching the entire thing live, and probably the worst loss I've seen in NFL. The interception where he fumbles it without getting touched, and then 3 Cardinals are standing on top of the ball, and they simultaneously kick it, and there's not even a Titan player around, and they kick it into the end zone where there's only Titan players around to follow. I mean, the worst loss I think I've ever, like, self-inflicted wounds. Not to mention the play calling when they had a chance to ice the game was just atrocious. So yeah, you add all that
Yeah,
in,
I think their
just
last
a
their
bit,
last 3 series was like 9 runs up the middle, no passes.
and that doesn't even include the snap into Kyler Murray's dome that they fumbled on
Yeah, I
when they're
forgot
like
about that one.
in, first and goal or whatever. So uh yeah, just brutal. Whole thing brutal. They gave up so many points that game.
All right, let's
I,
go.
I don't
Okay,
I don't understand the Cardinals. There's a ton of red flags, but for me, it's not even about how they lost. Which for interesting for me is like um, the NFL. It wasn't even the NFL that fined the head coach. It was the own Cardinals fined the head coach $100,000 for that incident on the sideline. That's that's even more of a red flag to me. Like
I mean you have to send
that's
a message to your team. You can't let your coach punch your players. Like I get it. I get you're frustrated, but like, and honestly, there's probably a lot of players that wanted to punch them themselves, but you can't, as an organization, you can't let that be something that happens.
he could just cut him.
Well, the coach could
Like
cut the player, but yeah, yes,
that's what I'm
but
saying is if like if
just
you
just for
can't
clarity,
handle me,
Demarcado didn't punch the coach. The coach punched him.
I agree. But
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
like
Okay, yeah.
yeah, there's been disputes on the sidelines between a lot of like Andy Reid and Kelsey chest bumped each other, like and the Chiefs didn't fine Kelsey $100,000. That's fascinating to me.
Well, this was a punch, right? That it's like in all sport. Like in football, you can do lots of stuff, but if you punch a guy, you're ejected, right? Like you
Okay.
can hit someone with a nasty hit, a late hit, get a 15-yard flag, what have you. You can jaw at somebody. You can get in their face. You can push them down. There's a lot of stuff you can do. A lot of it with penalties, some without. But once you throw a punch, you're ejected. I think that's just. I think it's one of those where you cross a line when you go that far.
So then why don't they do it behind closed doors is my other question. They're just doing it, the Cardinals organization, without the NFL stepping in, are doing it for to save face of their own organization. Like you
I
could
think
find them.
there's also saving face with the NFLPA because the NFLPA was going to come after him for it.
Yeah, well,
Then you let them.
and the public in general, because you don't want to promote violence. Like the NFL is a violent game. Injuries happen, and the last thing you want to do is be seen as like, oh yeah, we're totally cool with people hitting people. Like this was an employee hitting another
In a
employee.
sport where people hit people.
Yeah, but
No,
in a
I know what
sport
you're
where
saying.
players hit each
In a
other, not
sport where it's like extremely violent, like people literally get decapitated on going over the middle and stuff like that, and there's a coach punching a player, and it's like, oh, do not let's do not allow that.
look, there's lines you do and don't cross in every sport. Like there's things you do and don't do.
I don't even think the guy who spit on the other guy was fined 100 grand.
Well, right. Look, the amount is whatever. Right? Like that can be that's between the team and how they want to handle it. Like they have their own reasons, right? But I do not find it surprising at all that there was a public fine for what he did. They need to show
Gotcha.
they want to show the NFL, the NFLPA, their own team, their own organization, and their fans that we do not condone acts of violence. Because there's a difference between we're playing a violent game and violent stuff happens on the field, and we're being violent with each other on the sideline. Those are two different things.
For sure, I get you. I just say I feel like it's a slippery slope. Yeah, you're right. I get yeah.
Like there are guys, they have that Walter Payton Man of the Year award, guys who do all sorts of amazing work in their community who are wonderful human beings who do lots of good and would never hurt a fly, and then they get on the football field and they will murder you because that's what they're paid to do and they're very good at it. And that's okay because you can turn that switch on once you're in between those sidelines.
I guess if I got to go back and do it again, if I was Jonathan Gannon, I would have not punched him and I would just cut him right after. I'd tell him, hey, you don't need to come in the locker room. You don't need to come back. Just see you later.
Anyway, all right, let's go around the league. So we'll start with a defensive matchup. My team suffers another massive loss. Marion Hampton going on IR. Thankfully, Baker and Javonte, my two top performers, and my kicker, carried me through. I picked the Seahawks D off waivers. That clearly didn't work out as that was a massive shootout. And then, yeah, my wide receivers are just garbage. But I got the W because Miles, unfortunately for him, continues to make the wrong decision at wide receiver. This isn't me attacking Miles. It's just, look, I got lucky. He decided not to start JJ. JJ had 12 fantasy points. Williams had 0. That would have been the difference in the game, so I'm really glad for that. He's since dropped Jameson Williams, so I think we're going to see Ibuka.
I would
JJ
like to put
forward.
out a message for Miles, and I think what's his name, Jefferson, was listed as questionable on Saturday, so he had done it because he was busy gone Sunday and he didn't know, and then Sunday he didn't have reception Sunday afternoon to switch it, and then for Jameson Williams to get 0 points when Detroit scores 40 is a little ridiculous. But I don't want to speak for Miles. Miles could come on the show and defend himself, but I think there was a work and internet or maybe not work. I think he was just doing something, and he was like, "Dang!"
Yeah, I'm not
because he messaged me
knocking
Sunday.
Miles. I'm just saying like that was the difference.
No, I'm
like,
just saying I don't know if that was an active decision as opposed to he was worried Jefferson wouldn't play on Sunday, so he switched it Saturday, and then Sunday had no reception. Just throwing it out there. That's pretty much what. No, that's what he. I mean, unless he's lying to me, I don't know, but who cares?
No, I'm
It's all
just
good.
kidding.
He
Yeah,
needs to
there's-
never. Yeah.
But long story short,
Yeah.
look, my team's decimated by injury. I'm trying to hang on, but I'm 4-1 and I'll take it. Moving on to a much more high-scoring game, the serial killers putting Austin down. Poor Austin. For the second year in a row, his team is just getting obliterated. And this year, we all thought coming out of the draft he had one of the best teams. And man, he's been really unlucky too. Drake May played amazing, but had no touchdowns, so he had no fantasy points. Rico Dowdle had the game of the century. And Njigba has been a world beater, but Sylvie popped off. Justin Fields in garbage time picked up a ton of points. JCM finally got to be the starter. Like they finally said, hey, we're going to give our best running back the ball, and he did a lot of work with it. Lad McConkey found the end zone. So just things popped off for Sylvie. She had a great game. Unfortunately for Austin, he continues to fall. Do you guys think is he coming back from this? Because we all thought after the draft that he had a great team, and it's just not worked out for him. Do you guys think there's a turnaround coming for him, or is he just donezo?
I would like to point out that Austin has scored 70 points, 93 points, 95, 99, and 84, and he's 1-4.
Yeah, it's
So, and we've done the math. Like
I think isn't it 83 or over or something like that? Or
it's like 88 points basically.
Yeah.
Almost it should almost you win like 90% of the time with an 88-point game. And then like that percentage point like drops like once you go to like I think or the average win is 88. If you're at 90 and above, you have like a 90% chance to win. But his points against aren't that high, but he lost to Mitch 83-70, then he loses 110-93, wins 95-55. So the 55 is really bringing down his points allowed. So he has 3 losses where the team scored 110, 111, 103 against him. I think he still has a good team if he can figure out the running back situation. May and Goff as a cyclical thing is going to be fine. Just bad luck, dude. Sometimes fantasy D,
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't breakdown if you played everyone every week?
Yeah.
He's third best record, so why is it even a discussion? He has the third best.
Because fantasy D matters. You guys don't think it does, but I think it does. Fantasy D matters.
No, if you played everyone every week, he would have the third to worst record.
But you don't. You don't. You only play the people on your record.
Well, then you look at points against, and there are 3 other people in his division, or 2 other people in his division with more points against, and there are more people who have had worse luck with points against. So I don't know. I think this is a failure of someone once again thinks they can draft a core and not have a QB and compete in DoD. I don't.
Not have a You guys hate on Jared Goff so much. Dude, Goff is amazing, which I'll get to later at the point I'm going to make. But, one other thing I did want to point out. Oh, and by the way, the reason I ask these questions isn't necessarily because I believe the answers one way or the other. I'm the host of the show. I have to ask the questions to drive the conversation, guys.
Very good.
But
wow, bad take, Alex. You suck.
I will say, Henderson scared me in this matchup. Going into the Monday night, this is a Monday night game. Going into the Monday night game, I was like, I got this locked up. It's over. Right? Henderson's third string on the depth chart. He's not going to get any time. Ramondre Stevenson fumbles. So they pull him and go to Gibson.
Yeah.
Gibson tears his ACL, and then Henderson starts getting all the carries, and I was freaking out. He even gets tackled at the 1 on a rushing attempt before they decide, you know what, let's go back to Ramondre. We know he fumbled early in the game, and Ramondre got 2 rushing touchdowns after Henderson gets stopped at the 1. So that was a lot scarier than it should have been. Anyway, all right, let's go on to the next game. This game was super close. Oh, man, you got to feel for Chris. It looked like he had it, but then Mahomes has just been a beast. He's one of the best rushing QBs, and when you can rush, you pop off. The main thing I think that hurt Chris here was just huge. He went with Johnson over Tetaroa. The guy he got off waivers. We all thought Johnson's been playing great. He goes with him, and Johnson only gets 2 fantasy points because he only has 40 yards and loses a fumble because the Chargers were garbage, and that's the difference in the game. That 5 points would have made the difference.
This team scares me a bit. I said that before the season, too. This team scares me. This team's a dangerous team.
Well, what really scares me is, Cameron did not have a running back. He was not going to have anyone he could play. He has to pick up Michael Carter, which, man, I texted Brake so many times, pick up Michael Carter. You don't need Isaac Grindo. He's worthless. Pick up Michael Carter. He didn't listen. And now Cameron has Michael Carter, who is going to be the starting running back. He had 18 carries to DeMarcado's 3, and we just talked about DeMarcado's probably not going to be on the team. Not sure why he still has Eckler on his roster. It's wild to me, by the way. He did check his lineup because he picked up Michael Carter and dropped Tyreek Hill, who's on IR, but decided to keep Eckler, who's been on IR for weeks longer than Hill. Bigsby has not had a touch of the ball since going to Philadelphia. Irving is out injured. Spears was on IR. This is his first game back after IR. So, Cam was going to be so hurt at running back, and now he's got a starting running back for at least the next 4 weeks.
Way to play waivers, Cam. Good job.
Well, he didn't play waivers. He picked them up right before the game time because he realized he didn't have anybody.
I'm joking. The crazy part is he doesn't check his team for 3 weeks. He does the waivers this week against Chris, and then not just does the waivers, I thought that was enough, but apparently checks his team on Saturday to realize Bucky's out and pick up Michael Carter. So poor Chris. Poor Chris.
All right, moving on. Spark plugs versus chaos. Will someone please beat Matt for me? James Cook has his worst game of the season, but it doesn't matter because Chase gets 2 garbage time TDs. Ferguson has been a world beater. Pickens, he's just like, hey, I'm just going to start the Dallas receivers because they're good, and it's working. Murray did leave the game hurt, and Purdy is hurt, so there is a chance he'll be looking for another quarterback. I don't know if he got one off waivers. I didn't look, but yeah.
It's frustrating for me. Yeah, it's frustrating. I told Matt this. It's frustrating for Matt, to waste a 3rd-round pick on Kittle, which I've said for 5 years is it's terrible, terrible, terrible. He goes against what I say, and he still ends up with the number 1 tight end and doesn't get punished for taking Kittle in the 3rd round. That's the most frustrating thing for me on this team. But oh well. These also, talk about scary, Alex. These 2 teams are very scary because no one started 2 over. He's got Knicks on his bench, and heaven forbid McCaffrey's injury is due with the amount of touches he's had. He's got Robinson. These 2 teams.
It's also worth noting he traded you for Chubb the week after people were thinking Woody Marks was going to take over that job because Marks had a lot higher snap count the week before. This week it was all Chubb. Woody Marks.
Yeah, I think that was just a symptomatic of the game that they were already up 17-0 on the Titans in the 2nd quarter. Chubb's older and injury prone, so they just ran Marks. No, I think it's smart.
He also got Addison back, who, and by the way, this is 3 quarters, which, by the way, this is another thing we should talk about earlier. I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping around, but
no, it's fine.
What is the deal with people suspending players for games? What are you thinking? There are so many ways you can punish your players. You can make them, run laps in practice. You can fine them. You can make them do so many different things as part of their contract because they work for your organization. Saying, you know what, we're not going to let you play the first quarter. You're punishing the rest of your team by not having your wide receiver 2 out there. They had to score on a last second, as we talked about. At the end of the game, they scored on a last second touchdown caught by Jordan Addison, by the way. And it's like maybe they're not even in that position if you let your second best wide receiver play in the first quarter.
For sure.
It wasn't the league; it was the team. The team's the one who didn't let him play.
Unless it's kind of like, part of his game check goes missing. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying.
I'm sure it does, but you can find somebody. By the way, this was punishment because he
And play
missed a
the first quarter,
walkthrough in
yeah.
practice. You could have fined him for missing that walkthrough. That would have been totally allowed within the player agreement. You missed practice, we can fine you for that. Like that's a precedent that the league has. They could have just fined him instead of being like, you're going to miss a quarter of your game check because we're going to bench you for the quarter. Fine him whatever a quarter of his game. I don't know what his game check is, but if it's if it's $50,000 or whatever it is, fine him $50,000. Don't be like, you're just not going to get $50,000 because we're going to make you sit on the bench.
Yeah, these two teams have such good cores and B quarterbacks. These are both scary teams.
Well, I mean, it depends on what happens with Chase. Like I think Matt's team's going to go look at Chase's stat lines. 2-22, 3-2-23, right? Like this it's gonna hinge on which Chase are you getting every week. And now we didn't know before because it was up and down, but we certainly don't know now that they've made the switch to Flacco. So, if they're more of these weeks, then yeah, this team's a world beater. If they're more of these weeks, then look, when your first pick is laying eggs, that's gonna be tough, right? Because James Cook came back down to earth this game. We'll see how he looks moving forward. This is the first game James Cook looked human, so we'll see what happens next week. But either way, Matt still broke the century mark. That's good enough to get the dub. Speaking of getting a dub, oh my gosh, stop the presses. Team Phoenix won a game. Holy Hannah. And I'm really glad you did because you played someone in my division. But Vinny, do you want to take a victory lap because you finally won?
No, finally, yeah. So I was thinking this so I already thought this earlier in the week, and then I was thinking this as you were going through some of the lineups. So we're talking about Chris starting QJ, Miles making some questionable decisions. We have talked about this for so long that the first few weeks of the NFL season don't really matter, right? Like they do, but like you just don't get the true version of every player, in my opinion. It's like systems are still figuring out. There's this ramp up period. There's always chaos in the top 24. And there's some side of normative regression. Dude, I have convinced myself that, unless you're like Chase Brown, you're just like, oh my God, this offensive line is absolutely terrible. Burrow's hurt, injury aside. Why do we just all think we're superheroes and want to make risky ass starts? You know what I mean? Like me, I lost games because I was starting Caleb over Dak. I lost games because I was starting benching London. We just all need to start our studs until like that regression like falls. You know what I mean? That's my moral. That's my victory lap. You will see my lineup featuring my stars from here on out. I'm not benching them. I'm not getting too cute. So hopefully, because if I didn't
I don't know. I mean, you started Chris Olave this week and you dropped him. So.
Well, dude, yeah, because my other wide receivers were on bye. It wasn't by choice. Look at my bench. My bench is like all bye and hurt, so it's not like
that's not true. Chase Brown is not hurt or on a bye. He just sucks.
Yeah, well, I couldn't start him over Olave, Alex. Nor
would you. Nor would
I. Yeah. But that's my not just my victory lap for my team. I'm choosing to spend my victory lap saying, don't get too cute with fantasy rosters. Studs will be studs.
No, that's a really good point, and I'll even make that point for Luis's team with Travis Kelce. After the first 2 weeks, he had some really bonehead plays. We thought, he might be kind of over the hill. He was done, like not points wise, but just like the way he played. Like in week 1, he injures a player in Xavier Woods. In week 2, he had a costly drop. He's tied in 6 on the year, by the way. Tied in 6. Like it's. I mean, sure, it's not like the top where you want Kelce to be, but where you're drafting him now versus where you did, like that in 6.
So are you starting AJ Brown the whole year then, based off this philosophy?
I would, until someone tells me he's like washed. I would just continue to ride AJ Brown.
I mean, I'd be starting Stephon Diggs after what he did, personally, but
I would start Olave, who's on the waivers right now, over AJ Brown.
Well, we'll see if Luis picks him up then. And then one more team that broke the century mark, the Avengers take on the Penguins. Oh,
with
man.
Jackson Dart.
Oh, man. Jackson Dart getting the start for the Avengers. That's wild. That's really who you thought the best QB on waivers was this week?
Over Stafford and Darnold. Hell yeah. I did
Yeah,
that. And that was a big
good
mistake.
call on that. Stafford and Darnold sucked this week.
If you notice, this week I made the switch. I switched out Dart for Stafford. So it was just a 1 week call. No
Yeah,
big
the hate on
deal.
Stafford is wild from you, but yeah, that. Oh
He's
man,
my starting quarterback, and there's no hate on him.
he's your starting quarterback now. You had Jackson Dart over him last week, man.
Let's be real. If Dart wasn't playing the Eagles this week on short notice, because I just don't start any Thursday night games. Like the Rams have a great defense. They played a beat up O line on the Niners last week Thursday night. No wide receivers. Mac Jones is their quarterback, and the Rams got 3 fantasy points. I don't just notice this about me, and I promise you, unless it's like Jonathan Taylor or someone like that, I don't start Thursday night
Yeah,
players.
Thursdays are a minefield.
But
Yep.
yeah, the big story here just has been the same story all year. Jonathan Taylor has just looked unreal. Three rushing touchdowns. He had an octopus, got a 2-point conversion in there with one of those. Just Jonathan Taylor is back to the Jonathan Taylor from 5 years ago when he was RB1.
Yeah, at
All
the
their
end
shit.
of last year, he was pretty impressive too. The last like 6, 7 weeks. So yeah, but yeah, no, this I need a defense and a kicker. Someone want to trade? I'm just kidding.
All right, boys, it's segment time. So now we're gonna go into best and worst pick of the draft. We're 5 weeks into the season now, so I want to hear who you guys think was the best pick of the draft and who was the worst pick. And just for clarity, when it comes to the worst pick, I instructed you guys that do not include injuries. I'm not saying like, oh man, taking Joe Burrow was a terrible pick because he got hurt. Well, like that, yeah, he got hurt. That happens, right? That could happen to anyone. So if you're gonna use someone who's been injured, you want to only include the games they actually played in, their stat lines in those games, because that's we want to know like injuries can happen to anyone that's unlucky. We want to know who made a pick and it's like, oh man, that pick just did not work out, or who made a pick and like, oh man, that's a world beater. Does anyone want to go first on the? We're gonna do best pick first, just the best pick. So
I think we should let you go first,
okay.
only because
I'm just
I
gonna
don't
take
want to
his
steal
answer.
you. I don't want to steal your player, Alex.
I actually had two in case someone stole my player, but yeah, I'm gonna toot my own horn here. And I'm going to go with Javonte Williams. We'll have to
Got
go
the
down
low-hanging fruit.
quite a bit. Yeah, Javonte Williams took him in the 10th round. Now, look, full admission, I did say that I did not have him high on my board. That was just the best one I thought was left. But yeah, he is currently RB2 by points, RB3 if you go by average points per game, because Bijan Robinson did have a bye in there and he has more points per game. So RB3 on points per game. And the Cowboys' offense just looks unstoppable, and their defense can't stop anybody, so the offense has to be unstoppable. I just think this is a guy that people were low on based on the Cowboys and his past, and so far, he's been balling. Now, I will say he's slow as molasses. He had that long 60-yard run that would have been a touchdown by any other running back in the league, but he got run down by like a D lineman. He was so slow. But it was still a banger of a game. Dude has been absolutely killing out there, and now that I've traded away JCM, who's rocking as well, and Hampton is on IR, I'm gonna be starting him the rest of the way. So keep it up, Javonte. That my best pick of the draft is me with a Javonte pick. I did have one other one, but I'm gonna go with Javonte for now, and I'll circle back if no one says the other one. So what about you guys?
Yeah, well, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's the reason I wanted you to go first is I think that's the obvious best pick of the draft, period.
Yeah.
We've been talking offline quite a bit that like we talked about all these different offenses and all these different backfields, and I was so high on the Cowboys passing offense. Like I was like, give me Pickens, give me Lamb, give me Ferguson, give me Dak, because I was like, they're just gonna have to throw the ball 100 times a game. And now, like Javonte's getting 15 to 20 carries and 140 yards. So, yeah, easy choice. I'm gonna stick with tooting my own horn, that trend, only because I think in DoD the most important position to hit on is running back and quarterback. I mean, two positions, but quarterback it's usually the elites unless you somehow are the guy that takes Mahomes his rookie year, or Baker, like Nolan last year. And go with Travis Etienne. Currently sitting at RB10. He's only had the luxury of being in my starting lineup one time, and he is 1-0 in my starting lineup. But
And you only have the 2 wins total, so that's pretty good clip.
yeah, but thank you. And he didn't even contribute. He goes for 4 points in my own level. But, But yeah, I mean, when you can find someone who's going to finish in the top 12 of the running backs, or even top 15 in the 10th round, who not even injury related, just
Well,
like
this was
true
eighth
starter,
round. To be
like
fair, eighth round, but yeah.
oh yeah, sorry, you were 10th round, ATN. So 8th round, but like when you're drafting in those like late rounds and you get a true starter on good offenses, it's got to be considered a steal. So yeah, I'm gonna ride that horn.
Yeah, I think, but with both your pick and my pick, these were guys who were part of committees going into the season, and it was not super clear who was going to be the guy that emerged. And in the case of Javante, his top competition, Jaden Blue, was injured for the first couple of weeks, which gave him a chance to establish himself. And now that he has established himself, it's his job. With Etienne, they straight up traded away Tank Bigsby. And as we talked about kind of off air, people were worried about Bashal Tutin, me being one of them. Bashal Tutin's usage had gone up and up and up every game until this game when they're in a tight game against the Chiefs, and it was Etienne who they relied on when it was important. Etienne was getting all the work. The snap count and the plays and the touches all went down for Bashal Tutin this week because they were in a close game against a good opponent, and Etienne was the running back they trusted, which tells me he's going to be the guy moving forward. Mitch, you've been awfully quiet there, bud. You got anything to say?
Oh yeah, yeah. I was gonna have fun and take ETN and Javante from both of you, but I didn't
Yeah,
want to
I knew you
leave
were going to
you
be a
guys.
jerk. That's why you have to go last. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Well
we're going to
then,
the game.
the real answer comes down to two wide receivers for I'm going to go with Austin and Matt taking Pickens, which has been helped by CeeDee Lamb's injury, and then I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba for where they were taken. Because if you look at rounds 3, 4, and 5 wide receivers, it's like Cortland Sutton, and that's it. Or Puka Nacua, I guess, was around 3 in our draft. But taking him out, none of those wide receivers are good. Like none of them, except for those two that were taken, Pickens and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So I think if you are able to actually get value in wide receivers from rounds 3 to 5, those were the best picks of the draft because everyone else just tanked those rounds. I mean, no joke. Look at round 3: Drake London, Nico Collins, T. Higgins, AJ Brown, Mike Evans, Lad McConkey.
Well, we don't need to
Tyree.
bring up. First of all, round three is Martin Hampton. What list are you going off?
I said wide
But he
receivers.
just he just said the
You
beginning
said
of
round
round four.
three.
He just
Okay, round four. There we go. Okay.
I'm saying from
he,
round 3 to round
Gotcha,
5.
gotcha, gotcha.
The only
Okay.
way.
I mean, I will
The
say
only
Cortland
people
Sutton. I
who
think was a
got
great pick.
value. Yeah, yeah. So that's a great pick. I apologize. I didn't actually see him in there, but I'm saying that I feel like a lot of people would have gone Sutton, whereas Najigba and Pickens were kind of debated because a lot of people didn't have confidence in Darnold. And for your ability to take those wide receivers ahead of, because Marvin Harris, when Nick Jigba's taken, Metcalf, Harrison, McLaurin, Williams, all these guys are still on the board. And you were able, McMillan, all these guys are still on the board, and you were able to pick the right wide receiver. But ultimately, that crown goes to Miles for Emeka Ibuka. Holy hell, this guy has 94 fantasy points
Oh, I'm
and
so mad. I'm so mad, Miles. I'm
is
so
a
mad about
round
it.
8 wide receiver. He has 84 fantasy points. 84! And he's a round 8 wide receiver or whatever. That is the best value in my opinion. Besides Javante Williams, obviously.
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, I was so high
I'm
on
gonna
Abuka, and Miles beat me to him. Massive props to Miles for this. I mean, I'm so mad about it, but yeah, Abuka has been
Alex, no
so
more
good.
preseason podcasts next year.
I know, I did mention him multiple.
okay.
To be fair to Miles, I think he probably would have made this pick without me talking him up on the podcast. But yeah,
For sure.
but the
So
fact
I
that
do
I kid you not,
Anyone who
he
took
took
Abuka,
him
yeah,
one
you're
pick
right.
ahead of me. Like it would if he had taken him up. If Miles was up here, it'd be like, oh, that sucks. It's one pick before I take Pearsall. And given how bad my
Yeah.
team is at wide receiver, man, I wish I had Abuka.
So I will play devil's advocate here just a little bit because I considered Ibuka too because I'm like, dang, I can't believe like he went in the 7th round. He's wide receiver 3. He's 7. I made the comment where it's like it's not very often that you draft that late and you get like the true number one running back or the true number one wide receiver. I am I'm really curious to see what happens, and I'm not saying that he's not going to be valuable, but does he maintain a top 10 fantasy status when Evans and Godwin are back and at full strength? Like where do you fit this like 3 wide receiver? He's had the luxury of playing the first 5 games as their number one wide receiver based on the injuries. So I'm curious to see like what happens when all 3 are on the field. He may not regress. It's just I am interested to see like does he maintain this, elite success?
I think he does. I think he's built a rapport with Baker Mayfield. Now, obviously, there's going to be some regression to the mean with touchdowns. He's got 5 TDs through 5 games. I don't know if that's a sustainable rate. So there might be some falling back down to earth. But, I mean, Godwin's played the last 2 games. And the first game, sure, he was like come back from injury. This past game, he had no injury designation all week. He practiced all week. He played. Godwin was medium. Ibuka was a baller. It takes time to come back from injury. I don't know that. I don't think we're going to see Godwin at 100% anytime soon. And if Evans comes back, I just don't think they run the same routes necessarily. So I don't know. I think Ibuka's the guy. I think he's here to stay.
Yeah.
All right. I will give one more.
Right?
Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just saying those are positive, right? We weren't doing negative, right?
Yeah. We're doing positives. I'll give one more shout out to someone just to not toot my own horn on my pick. The Judkins pick by Chris, round 9. So this was a round before Javonte, but when Chris made this pick, this guy was not signed to an NFL roster. He is a rookie who is not on a team, who's not practiced, not been with the team, nothing. He is currently running back 19, and you're like, okay, well that's an RB2. He didn't play week 1, and week 2 he was on a snap count. If you just look at the 3 games where he's played, he's been amazing. And there's even more to it than that. So it's not just where he is now. Like I said, he is RB19. If you go based on points per game, on a points per game basis, he is RB9. He is a number 1 running back, an RB1, because he's RB9 on points per game, and that includes the game where he's on a snap count. So it's even he's even higher than that. So I think Judkins is arguably one of the picks of the draft because this is a RB1 set and forget it guy who's getting 20 plus touches a game. I mean, he's literally averaging over 20 touches a game since he became the full-time player.
And I'm not saying that it was against like great defenses, but it's 4 potential playoff bound teams to Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota.
I mean, yeah, Green
really,
Bay, Baltimore's defense
really
sucks, but
impressive.
I think Green Bay, Detroit, and Minnesota all 3 have good defenses.
Yeah,
And
it's really
and it's a team that hasn't been able to pass the ball, so it's not like they're not able to stack the box.
Yeah.
So,
I was going to say Robert Jonesay for Vinny, but I'm just not convinced on anything on the Bears. I'll wait till the end of the season to make up my mind about.
Yeah,
what the
we've
Bears
already
are
patted
doing.
Vinny on the back. All right, let's move on to the worst pick of the draft, boys and girls. So, Mitch, you still have to go last because I know what you're going to do. So, Vinny, you'll go first. Who was the worst pick of the draft?
I tooted my own horn on the Travis Etienne. I'm like, listen, if you can get a running back and he can be a number 1 guy and you get them in round 8 and they're unquestionably the number 1 guy because running back is so important. It's even more important when you're busted your own 2nd round pick in Chase Brown. That's just unfortunately a hill that I am dying on across the spectrum of fantasy football this year. So the benefit of like guys like ETN, guys that we're high on, you get to gloat on them when you draft them in multiple leagues, but then when you draft Chase Brown in multiple leagues, you are in the chum bucket. So, dude, your round 2 pick, 10-5-1-7-4, is pretty brutal. So, yeah.
You want to hear some fun stats about Chase Brown?
Sure, let's go for it.
So you took him as the 12th running back in our draft, which means you had RB1 expectations, right? 12 running backs means RB1. He's currently not even
talk about where I had him ranked.
He's not even an RB3. He's currently RB38. Points per game, he's RB44. So he's even worse than that. So he's not even an RB3. Since 2014, so the past 10 plus seasons, there have been 246 players who have had 80 or more touches through the first 5 games. Where do you think he ranks on that list for how well he's done with those 246 players with those 80 plus touches?
246th.
You are correct. He is 246th. He is historically the worst ever with that many touches through 5 games. That's how bad Chase Brown has been, and I don't think Joe Flacco is going to make it any better, but we'll see.
On that note, you're hurting at running back. You want Chase Brown?
I do not. I've got Javonte Williams and and Josh Jacobs. All right. You know what? I'll be nice, Mitch. I'll let you go second.
For the worst picks.
Yeah.
Well, mine a lot of times is dependent on the value. So I'm
Right.
gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. I mean, there is an injury, but he's injured all the time. And I have to go Kittles and Matt. I cannot believe the Matt I know is willing to do Kittles in the third round in a fantasy
Well, so
DoD
we
league.
talked about it has to be based on the games they played. So if you go based on the games he
Okay,
played, he had 8 fantasy
Drake
points.
London is my answer then.
Okay.
Sorry, Vinny.
So Drake London. Let's take a look at Drake here. He's had one good game. It was the most recent game, to be fair. He's getting targeted a ton, but man, they just can't seem to get the ball anywhere near him. He is currently wide receiver 34 in fantasy points, and he was taken in the third round as the what is this, sixth wide receiver taken?
It's only because I had him really high as well, so I'm kind of piling on myself with this one. But I know Vinny specifically said before the season that he was super high on Njigba. Look how smart Vinny would have been if he just put Njigba in that round three pick instead of London. We'd all be like, "Wow, what a savant!" He went Njigba over all these wide receivers like T Higgins, AJ Brown, and he'd be looking so smart. Instead, London is kind of. Hurting him a little bit right now. And I think Vinny, if he had the record, if he had drafted a Jigba instead of London, what would his record be right now? Because he wouldn't be playing the wide receiver matchups that he has to play. So that I take in consideration as well. That one hurts.
Yeah. Well,
I'll
I
go with my
mean,
own option and say T. Higgins, but you said it can't be based off injuries, and
Well,
I
but
think,
but he has
yeah,
played every game. No, no, that
yeah,
he's played every game, so you can still say this is a bad draft pick. Even though I agree it's not T. Higgins' fault, but like yeah, this was a bad draft pick. I realize that the injury to Burrow has affected him, but no, what I'm saying
yeah.
is like look, do I wish over and over and over every day that I'd gone by, based on my rankings and taken him on Ross St. Brown over Malik Neighbors? Yes, but was Malik Neighbors a bad pick? No,
No,
he only played in 3 games, right? Like he had a decent game, an amazing game, and then one bad game. I don't count game 4 because this is the game he got hurt, so I don't know what he would have done if he played the full game, right? So like, yeah, he had one fantastic game, one bad game, and one decent game. Like that wasn't a bad pick. I just got unlucky, even though like if I just stuck to my own rankings, I'd have been much better off. Okay, so yeah, I've got a few different ones I could go with, and I kind of debated because there's like a lot of different like ways I could go with this, but I think I just have to go with the guys at the top, and that's Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. You drafted these guys not just to be an RB1, but to be RB1. When you took Saquon Barkley, you thought this is going to be the number one fantasy running back. When you took Derrick Henry, you thought this might be the number one fantasy running back. These guys aren't even RB1s, they're RB13 and RB17 on the season. And like Mitch talked about, they haven't had much success running the ball at all. Um, even and then what is it in the most recent game they played? Saquon's not even getting the ball as much as he used to, which is problematic. What was it, like 6 carries or something? 8 carries? What did he have last week? 6 carries. He only got 6 carries against Denver last week. Like, yes, he's had a lot more than that every other game. But look at his averages: 18 for 60, 18 for 46, 19 for 43. Those are all so bad. He's been bailed out by
Yeah.
touchdowns. Like the only reason that Saquon Barkley is even a RB2 at number 13 is because he's had a touchdown in 4 of the 5 games. And like, is that sustainable? Are you going to score a touchdown every single game you play? Because like at this point, he has to in order to be fantasy relevant.
Well, you can make the argument there's no such thing as a tush push. He might have more TDs, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but
no,
you knew when you drafted him there were going to be tush pushes, right? Like no one went into
For
this thing
sure.
and the Eagles aren't going to do the tush push at all, even though it's still legal. Like, come on.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I considered also taking Henry, but I think Henry's going to bounce back. I mean, the dude has 2 9-point games with touchdowns. Like he's like on Chase Brown level just with touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he has been worse than Saquon because he gets the ball less than Saquon.
Yeah. So, but just because of draft value, and I agree with that. I mean, we talked about it before the draft. Like, none of us really thought Saquon was the right number one pick, but nobody wanted to be the guy that didn't draft Saquon, and he had even 80% of the season he had last year. Where on the flip side, Bijan Robinson is RB6 with a bye week, so his points per game are probably through the roof.
Yeah, but
Um,
and like I said, look, we talked about you can't win your league in the first round, but you can lose it, and so that's why I think these picks are so important. Like this is an RB1, an RB1, an RB1, a wide receiver 1, an RB1, an RB1, a RB1, an RB1. So many hits in the first round. And by hits, I don't mean like, sure, did I draft Josh Jacobs as the 7th back off the board to be the 12th running, or 8th back, whatever it is, to be the 12th? No, I wanted him to be 8th or higher. But it's still an RB1 that I drafted in the first round, which is what you wanted to get. So when you're out here and you're drafting a guy to be an RB1, especially at the top end of the draft where you're really hoping to hit a home run and you're getting an RB2, like that's, to me, that is a big hit to the squad. Now, both these teams are good. Both these teams are doing well. So, like, they saved themselves with the rest of the draft and whatnot. But to me, I think that was some of the worst picks non-injury related. Because a lot of the really bad numbers are injury related. And obviously the worst one, you've already covered, Vinny. That was the worst pick, I think, in the draft. But Chase Brown.
Thanks. But no, I think this just goes to show you can be as smart as you want in fantasy football. Dude, sometimes the people in front of you make the decisions for you. And, people will be like, oh my God, Christian McCaffrey, RB3, pick 5, like such a great pick. I picked him because he was the only person left on my board. You know what I mean? Like Mitch would have taken Burrow over Jackson. I know Jackson's hurt now, but Burrow's out for a season. So sometimes we just get lucky. And, thankfully, you guys aren't talking about, Derrick Henry falling to me at 5, and I've got a bust at pick 1, pick 2, and pick 3.
Yeah, and it just goes to show you how much injuries have shaped this season. So like Henry has been affected by a quarterback injury, affected by a bad quarterback who is now injured. So I guess
positive regression.
Injured,
Jefferson,
injured, has missed games due to injuries. Not right now, but he missed multiple games due to injury. He just sucks. But also his quarterback is injured. Missed games due to injury, In the second round alone, like that's half the players basically in the first and second round have either had an injury themselves or been affected by a major injury. There have been a lot of injuries this year that have really shaped the season.
I scroll down. That Kenneth Walker Nolan pick looks better and better every week, even though Nolan piled on.
It does. Yeah, I almost gave Brian Thomas
as
my bad pick. Like if you wanted to go based on value, Brian Thomas, kind of the same argument as Chase Brown. Like he's wide receiver 38. You drafted him to be a wide receiver at this point, borderline wide receiver 1, 2. I don't know how many wide receivers went at this point, but
just keep it right there, Alex, real quick. Brian Thomas.
I also don't think we're talking about Tom. So this is to say like these are our steals of the draft and bust. I tried to also predict what the future was going to hold. Like Chase Brown's not getting better. I do think guys like London and Brian Thomas and Henry have the potential to get better and like earn their keep still.
Chase Brown's screwed though.
So but like AJ Brown, I don't think he's
That's my point. So like look at this real quick. Not to cut you off, but like Brian Thomas has had his supposedly Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be a top 5 QB, blah blah blah, the whole season. No injuries, no nothing. He has 4 less points than T. Higgins. That is so bad. Like he has, and look at AJ Brown. Nothing's changed on that offense. Still the same world champion offense, the team that's gone to the Super Bowl 2 in the last 4 years or whatever. And he has 4 less points than T. Higgins. He has 2 goose eggs.
He has 2 goose eggs.
That's what I'm saying. Is like there are some real. Look at Drake London. He has 4 less points than T. Higgins. There are some real flops in these rounds, and that's why when I say you can get an Ibuka or a Jigba or a Sutton in this mess of garbage, good for you. You won. You picked the right guys. That is massive credit.
I can speak to the fact that I feel like I nailed picks 5 through like 10, and I am not winning because I failed picks 1 through 4.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't,
well, you also failed on who to start. I mean.
Yeah, no, I know, but you don't always win it. You just can't. You win in those picks if you didn't blow it in the first half of the draft.
For sure, but that's what I'm trying to say, Vinny, is if you don't blow it in the first half, it's like a equal reaction type of thing. Where like now you're not having all your depth players. You're like, who am I starting type of thing. You're just going with your high pick draft pick. Does that make sense? So it kind of eliminates you starting the wrong people.
A lot of it goes on your own personal rankings. Like, Vinny said he got lucky. He would not have taken McCaffrey. Like, he was hoping Henry would fall to him. He thought he was going to be taking Henry here, right? That's what we talked about, I think, at one point. So sometimes gets lucky. And then other times it's like you go with your gut and or you don't go with your gut and it costs you. Because, for me personally, every pick that I've made this season that I went with, what the experts said was wrong, but the picks that I went with my gut have been right. So I'm in like you guys know, I'm in multiple fantasy leagues. My QBs in those leagues are guys that I believed in, not guys that they thought were going to be great. I have Baker, Dak, Goff, and Stafford. Baker was predicted to be QB7 by most rankings. He's currently QB4. Dak was predicted to be QB14. He's currently QB6. Goff was predicted to be QB19, currently QB10. And Stafford predicted to be QB21, currently QB7. These are 4 guys who are top 10 fantasy QBs, 3 of whom were projected by most sites that, like, hey, you shouldn't start these guys. They're not going to be good enough to start. And, like, that's all about going with your gut feeling and not just taking chalk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the problem is the years like people don't draft QBs early, your gut feeling can't match up with other people's gut feelings, or you don't get the
No, but
Bakers
it,
and the
it works with other
Fields.
players. So I use them specifically
You're
just
right,
because,
you're
like,
Yeah, yeah.
just because, like, when I went with, like, Malik Neighbors, because everyone had him super high, that obviously didn't work out, but that's because of injury. Omarion Hampton is now injured, but even before the injury, like, if it wasn't for the Najee Harris injury, I don't think Omarion Hampton would have been a thing, and he was super hyped by a lot of these, websites. Like, I'm just saying, like, there's Lad McConkey was hyped by everybody, and I personally thought that Keenan Allen was going to be better, but because I had so many shares of Keenan Allen elsewhere, I went with Lad in this league, and man, do I regret that decision. So I just think sometimes, look, if you have a gut feeling, go with your gut, because I speak from experience. If your gut is wrong, yeah, that sucks, but you don't feel bad about it because there's a guy you believed in. Whereas if you take a guy you don't believe in, and then they suck, you just feel so dumb for not listening to yourself. So the best advice I can give people out there, go with your gut. And if you're wrong, who cares? At least you believed in what you did. So
And then the problem is the gut turns into you have favorite players, and you end up just going with favorite players, and you end up drafting Andrew Luck in the first round for 4 years.
I mean, that'll happen. All right, boys.